In this video, I will teach you how to solve word problems that involve proportions. Right now, I'm looking at a word problem that reads, a certain car can travel 180 miles on 8 gallons of gasoline. How many miles can this car travel on 12 gallons of gasoline? To begin solving this problem, I must first identify my unknown value. I see right here the question is asking how many miles. So I'm going to underline the how many miles in blue. More specifically, the question wants to know how many miles can this car travel on 12 gallons of gas. So that piece of information here, that's very important also. So I'm going to underline that in green. The 12 gallons of gas is not our unknown value, however. Our unknown value is this how many miles. So like we've been doing in other word problems, I'm going to set a variable equal to my unknown. I will say let x equal the number of miles on 12 gallons of gasoline. By this I mean x is equal to the number of miles that this particular car can travel on 12 gallons of gasoline. In order to answer this particular word problem, I'm going to use a proportion. Using information from the first part of my word problem, I can write a proportion or a ratio that relates the number of miles that this car travels to the number of gallons that this car has. In the first part of the problem, the problem states 8 gallons of gasoline will equate to 180 miles. So I can write 180, and I'm going to underline this 180 miles in blue just so you see where I'm getting that from, over, and here we have 8 gallons, and I will write that in green, 8. So I've begun to set up a ratio, or the first half of a proportion, 180 miles per 8 gallons of gasoline. Now, I want to set this ratio equal to another ratio, but this one will have an unknown value, the number of miles when we have 12 gallons of gasoline. Because the number of miles is my unknown value when we have 12 gallons of gasoline, just like I stated here, I will write x on the top part of my ratio over here, finishing up my proportion, and then in the denominator I will write 12. I'm pulling this information from the second part of the word problem where we're told that we have 12 gallons of gasoline and we're trying to figure out how many miles we can travel with that 12 gallons of gasoline. So now I have successfully created a proportion, which I'm going to put a box around, and we can solve this proportion uncovering the value of x, and then this will answer our question, which is how many miles can we travel with 12 gallons of gasoline. Now, it's important to remember that the basic rules of solving algebraic equations still apply when you are working with proportions. Our goal is always to isolate our variable, in this instance x. So, to isolate x in this particular instance, I notice that x is being divided by, or is written over, the value of 12. So our quantity x divided by 12 equals this quantity. So to isolate my variable x, I will perform the opposite operation of division, which is multiplication, and I will multiply both sides of my equation by 12 over 1. In this instance, I pick the number 12 over 1 because that is the value in my denominator. That is the number by which I am dividing my variable. When I multiply the right side of the equation over here by 12 over 1, the quantity x divided by 12 multiplied by 12, this can be rewritten as 12x over 12, and ultimately this can be simplified to be equal to x. And then on the right side of our equation, I can rewrite this part of the equation as, as 12 times 180 divided by 8. And then I would just go ahead and sort of quickly simplify this information over here. Here we have 12 times 180 divided by 8. When I perform these operations, I can simplify the left side of the equation to read as 270. So I have successfully isolated my variable and solved for my unknown. And I did this by setting up a proportion based off of the information provided in the word problem. To just quickly recap how we went about solving this word problem, we were told that a car could travel 180 miles on 8 gallons of gasoline. So I used that information to set up the left side of my proportion. I decided to write miles over gallons. Miles over gallons of gasoline, I should say. And then the question was asking me how many miles. So X, this was my unknown value, the number of miles. And I put this on the top of my other fraction so that it was equivalent to the left side. And then I was told that I had 12 gallons of gasoline in this instance, so 12 would go in the denominator here. At this point, it was a matter of solving the proportion that I had written. At this point, the proportion that I've written reads 180 over 8 equals x over 12. And I was able to write this proportion based off of the information provided in the word problem. From there, I went about treating my proportion like any other algebraic equation, and I sought out to isolate my variable x. In this particular instance, because x is being divided by 12, I chose to multiply, performing the opposite or inverse operation. I chose to multiply both sides of my equation by 12, the number by which my unknown quantity x was being divided. When I did that, I was able to simplify both sides of my equation and ultimately discover that x equals 270.